Hello everybody, welcome to What Culture Gaming. I'm Scott, joined by Josh.
Hello, Scott.
Josh, my friend, working the late shift as the PlayStation Showcase has just wrapped. It's almost 10 p.m. over in the UK, but we couldn't wait breaking all the biggest things down from the showcase. I want to get your initial thoughts as it just wrapped up about 20 minutes ago.
A weird one. I'm really positive on it. I want to say that right now. I am really positive on it. There was nothing, well, bar a few things that really blew me away, but the things that did blow me away absolutely knocked it out of the park. And just looking at the list that I wrote down of like must plays, stuff that I saw and stuff that I'm instantly looking forward to, there's loads. There was a lot in that showcase that really did it for me. But like I say, only a couple that really felt like this was something special.
I thought, I was like, overall, I think it's extremely solid. I love the amount of new IP. I love that they opened on a new IP. And I wrote everything down. It's like 34 games in total that they showed off, which is really impressive. I love that they just sort of trimmed out all the, like the quote-unquote fat. Like if they just sort of get rid of all the cutbacks to random people, the presenters, whatever it is, just get to the games. How many games can you cram into an hour if you're just doing trailers? Turns out it's a lot. Turns out it's at least 34. So I thought it was really strong in that regard. There was only really a couple of trailers where I was like, oh my god, that's phenomenal. Alan Wake 2 blew me the F away. I thought that was brilliant. But we'll break down the biggest things. Like you said, you've written some stuff down. But we thought we'd open on Spidey 2 because we've been waiting on a gameplay showcase for that game for a while. And they're just going full bore symbiote Spider-Man, Peter Parker's infected. What did you think?
Dude, you know what? Initially, I kind of thought it might have disappointed because I love the bit with Craven at the start with, like the CG cinematic. But I thought they might cut it off after that. And I was like, no, you've got to show gameplay. It's been so long. I need to see some gameplay. And obviously then we got that extended sequence. And I loved it, man. A lot of it was kind of the natural evolution of what we saw in Spider-Man 2018. But it looked so fast. I don't know what you thought about the momentum, but like the speed of it. I really loved the new powers that were introduced, especially in the symbiote version of Peter Parker. I thought looked spectacular. It had that kind of sense of scale to the set pieces that the 2018 game did and Miles Morales did, just kind of upped up a little bit of a level. I was knocked out the park. I'm excited to get into specifics, but the more the demo went on, the more I really enjoyed it, but I'm eager to see what you think because I'm not sure where you're going to fall in it.
No, I massively back it. I sort of laugh that they still have QuickTime events and they still have the stuff that feels like... It's almost like if you talk about the influence that Last of Us had on Sony's first party, where everything is kind of like a slow, talky, more serious, mature thing. Uncharted is also in there as well. If you talk about the lifeblood of like PlayStation first party, there's a lot of Uncharted in Spider-Man, and there's even more of it by the looks of it in Spider-Man 2. So I thought they were really fun set pieces, but obviously you can tell just how much you're controlling within that set piece, like that bit when Miles was being chased by the lizard, and it's just like dodge left and right, hit circle to dodge, whatever. I was like, this is fun, this is a fun visual, but there's things that I enjoyed the most were the bits before that, like the web wings, like you got your wish, web wings are totally in here, which looked awesome. I got my wish, I got the double web zip thing from the original Spider-Man 2 game, and that's in the movie, and so like I like that they're giving you more options like that, more traversal options, more ways to combo stuff together, and like you said, the combat is proper Web of Shadows. I feel like that game is always overlooked. And that game had symbiote powers very similar. Lots of tendril attacks, lots of group stuff, lots of quips from Peter Parker getting his anger on, which I'm fine with all that stuff. I do think it's interesting that they showed this part of, assumedly, the story, because this will be after Venom's broke out from Oscorp. This will be after the symbiotes, after Harry's got rid of the symbiote, and then Peter acquires it, and then you go into that whole part of the story. So what do you think of that stuff? Like, do you think they're going to get the Venom stuff out the way at the beginning of the next game?
I don't think so. I think, Venom as a character will be present throughout the game, whether as a total threat or whether he comes and goes. I'm not entirely sure. I think that he'll be used as kind of like the end boss of the game, perhaps, and kind of come back around when Peter, you would assume, inevitably gets rid of that symbiote suit, but I'm not entirely certain. I actually had a thought, when Peter grabs Miles towards the end and he kind of, grabs his arm. I was wondering then if I was trying to figure out if I could see some of the symbiote suit on Miles. I didn't know if it would like transfer and then give us another symbiote, whether it's Carnage or whoever, on another character. So I wonder whether we have actually more than one symbiote in the game or whether it is just Venom himself. But going back to what you said about like the web wings and stuff, I think the trailer was so good for me because it had those like big pop moments, right?
Yeah.
You had like the reveal of Kraven, you had the reveal of the Lizard, you had the reveal of Queens, you had the web wings, you had the web zip, you had the symbiote Spider-Man moves. You had that really cool stealth maneuver Miles had where, you know, he got to fire out a web and then use it as like a tightrope walk to get around the level. You know, you've got the character switching. It just kind of dropped a lot of details while also being a really entertaining gameplay reveal, and I think that's like the best of both worlds in a way.
Yeah, man. I think like that whole thing of like hinting at that you can character switch, I hope that's more like GTA 5 and not just at specific story set piece moments. I assume because they're really showing it off that it will be like a key thing, even though it was just hit square to do it in that scene. But like because you have two main characters, because they've said it's not going to be co-op, like you have to assume that they've built two Spider-Men and then we'll let you go between them.
I wonder whether it's kind of like context specific in the missions themselves, like it seemed here, but then more freeform in the open world exploration. Like maybe you can choose who you play as to complete certain side missions or something, or just to kind of, you know, swing around as your heart sees fit. What did you think of the symbiote costume itself? I thought it looked sick. Like I
really
like
cool.
kind of like the minimalist version of that costume. It looks like the classic version, obviously with a few modernizations, for lack of a better term. I like the sliminess of it in certain areas. I like the big eyes. It kind of worked for me.
No, man, totally. I love the fact that it almost looks like half Spidey armor that's then like it hasn't fully reconstituted itself. Like parts of the panels look like they're full, but then there's lots of like tendrils and gooey stuff in between, like holding it together. So it's like it should always. I always like the idea that the symbiote was this living thing, and obviously in the comics they really fleshed that stuff out. So the more it feels like a living thing is like working with him, and it has like a agency or like a consciousness or whatever, the better. So I as soon as I saw it, I was like, I like that Insomniac have done the Insomniac side symbiote suit, like they've made it their own, because that's the best thing about this. I love that it's like their own take on it overall. Actually, Peter's saying that he has teeth by the end of it as well. Like I don't think any of the comic book depictions of symbiote Spidey have gone as far as having Peter Parker have Venom teeth, but I'm curious about that. Like obviously it could be metaphorical or whatever, but I'm just thinking of like art direction, how much they might want to push him literally being infected and having Miles save him. They could do.
Well, Scott Telford, I'm not sure if you can remember this, but we did a podcast like a few months ago where we did a few predictions for what we thought was going to happen in Spider-Man 2. And having seen this trailer, I kind of back one thing that I said in that, and that's that at one point, I'm almost certain we're getting a boss fight with Peter Parker's Venom-infused symbiote. I feel like it's going to get to the point where we might see him become like actual Venom, not just corrupted by the suit, but take on that classic look like you mentioned there, you know, all teeth, all bulk, a real villain and not just this kind of morally corrupted character. And then you have to play as Miles to take him down or, you know, bring him back to his senses, get the suit off him. I think that would be really sick.
Man, that'd be awesome. Let's we'll run down some of the stuff, because like I said, there were a handful of things in here that I was like, oh my god, like I'm trying to keep the best feeling when you're just trying to keep up with the trailer and it just keeps wowing you and wowing you and wowing you. I thought Alan Wake 2 is my trailer of the show. I thought that thing was phenomenal. I love what they seem to be doing with Max Payne / Sam Lake playing a new detective character who is Max Payne. I can't tell exactly what they're doing there, but because they seem to be, obviously Alan Wake's tied into the Control universe and James McCaffrey is the voice of the dude that was like the other head of that thing. So I don't know what they're doing with that, but obviously the face looks exactly like Sam Lake now, and they very much style him like a Max Payne. What do you think of the Alan Wake 2 stuff now that we saw a bit more gameplay and the new characters and everything?
Like third best of the show. I thought it looked great. Like as soon as it started, I thought the narration was spot on. I love like the new Keanu Reeves-esque look that Alan himself has.
Actually,
that looked really fun. Like the idea that you can play as or at least a new character on top of Alan as well was interesting. I thought the design of the monsters looked cool. Visually, it looked like a treat. They've already said previously that they're leaning on more survival horror tropes with this one. They're going to go more all in on the horror focus, and you definitely got that from this, right? I think Control is one of the most stylish games of like the past few years, just in terms of its art design and its feel and its aesthetic. And I could feel a lot of that in here, and in the colors and the way it was presented in the visuals. And having that drop in October, like the thing about this showcase is that it gave us so many 2023 games, and presumably so many early 2024 games, and we're just kind of like stacking out that year, and to have Alan Wake there at the end Yeah, I agree, man. It was one of the best trailers of the show for me.
I think, I was like, I kind of want to run down, because there's so much to get to. Like, Alan Wake 2, like I said, that was one of my favorite trailers of the whole show. What do you think about the way they revealed the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, remaster thing?
Oh my god, Scott Tail. But I have no idea what the next 3 trailers even were, because that thing, I was still reeling from it. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Like, I love it when, we do this as a job, right? It's our job to keep up with rumors and leaks. Yeah, we try, and whether we do a good job. Left up to you guys in the comments. Yeah, we'll see. But it's our job to know kind of what's coming before it arrives. And Metal Gear Solid 3 was the worst kept secret, especially in the past few days. Every reliable leaker was saying it's going to be at the showcase, it's going to be at the showcase. And I was still surprised when I saw it, because it was one of those trailers that builds up and you don't know what it is. And then you get the reveal of someone in the woods. And even then I didn't know who it was until I literally saw the face. And then I just went wild for it. It looked better than I expected, I hope. The game itself is a full remake in that style and not just kind of a more up-resed version of the previous HD remake that we got. But the double whammy of that reveal combined with the first volume, it said, of the
Master Collection or something?
Master Collection with 1, 2, and 3 coming out this year. I was like, Metal Gear is back, baby.
The thing is with that Master Collection stuff is that they're now doing whatever this project is for Metal Gear Solid 3, and then the Master Collection, it's 1, 2, and 3 again. So I'm like, is that just a collection of 1, 2, and 3 as they were, but I guess up-resed, or maybe given better extra save points, something they could do that would be an emulation-based thing. And then this is also an additional, better cutscene. I just honestly think this is a 4K version of the original with the cutscenes from the pachinko parlor that we got a bunch of years ago. I'm waiting to see, because they've been quite cagey with it.
I mean, this could be entirely wrong. Konami has let us down before, but to me, judging off what I saw in that trailer, the fidelity of it, the promise of the new Snake, for instance, combined with the fact that we are getting a version of MGS3 in its original form, probably up-resed anyway, to me suggests it's going to be more than just the pachinko.
Yeah, they need to distinguish it.
Put into the game. Yeah, I think it's going to be a proper remake, and if it's not, after the precedent set by that, I'll actually be disappointed. To me, though, this is the best way to kind of make a remake of a game. It's completely transform it, but keep the original accessible. For as good as the Resident Evil games are, I wish those games had this element where the original version was just as readily available alongside, so you don't get the feeling that this is replacing it. I want a kind of sense of preservation with the older series and respect for it on top of doing something new. So the fact that we're getting both, to me, was Konami's doing well, but the proof will be in the pudding.
Yeah, interesting leading with 3. We've said that loads on the podcast and everything, which, by the way, please go subscribe to the What Culture Gaming podcast. And also, stick on the channel as well.
It's not Metal Gear 3, it's Metal Gear Triangle. Did you see the new logo?
That bit, I was like, okay, what are they doing? Are you rebranding it? Is this the original? Is this now Metal Gear Solid 1? Because chronologically it's the first one. That was a whole weird thing. I still think it's weird that they're leading with Metal Gear Solid 3 for a whole new audience, because it's going to ruin some of the twists in 2. But I guess we'll just see how that stuff shakes out. The next game down that we both said freaked us out in the best way possible was Phantom Blade / Phantom Blade 0. I couldn't tell if that 0 was part of the font or not. But that game is Souls mixed with Matrix moves, wall running, lots of flips and really cool stuff. I thought that was the kind of game that I've been hankering for a couple of years now. Something that takes the Souls formula and injects stylish over the top moves and sort of things that are more associated with Platinum games into it. I thought that thing looked incredible.
My favorite part of these shows, not just Sony ones, at this moment in time as I get older, isn't the reveals themselves. It's being able to turn to my partner and say, I bet Scott Tailford loved that. And when Phantom Blade was showing off its gameplay, I turned to my partner and said, I bet Scott Tailford would love that, because everything you just said looked sick. It had a bit of jank to it, I must admit, in terms of the presentation for me. But not where it counted, and that's in the combat, and that's in the animations, which just looked gorgeous. There was that move early on where the characters stuck their leg out and their arm at the same time to strike 2 different opponents, and it just
my god, I was so excited by that. I thwacked my laptop, but at the same time, I massively agree with you.
That's right, and it kept topping that over and over again. Like you said, this kind of weird mix of, great sword play with this kind of great choreography, these great animations. Phantom Blade is a franchise that I've never played or heard of,
No,
So
I thought it was a whole new thing. I tried to do
in.
this before to be like, oh my god, yes, and then launched you.
Well,
but I think the way that they showed that thing off, it was such a confident like first step. I thought initially it was going to be Rise of the Ronin, because they showed that off a couple of State of Players ago or whatever. But still, to put a foot forward, I just thought this looked awesome. You mentioned the combat stuff, that stance he was doing to deflect like 2 attacks at once. Give me more stylish blocking. That stuff is so cool. Give me awesome evasive moves. Like I just want that's the carryover from the Matrix that we've not had. Like stylish taking on 5 dudes at once stuff. It just looked awesome.
Yes, I fully agree. Like, I think it's going to be one of those games, and there were a few of them in the showcase, to be honest, where I kind of say, this looks incredible, and then I never play it. I hope this isn't one of those, because the combat itself did look so satisfying. I just hope it has everything else on top of that to complement it, but I guess we'll see more soon.
I must throw in the game Sword of the Sea from Giant Squid, because that's the game from the composer from Abzu, and it was like from the composer from Journey, and I was like, oh my god, are they doing a Journey 2 or whatever? And yeah, it's like a whole new thing called Sword of the Sea, but very much channeling 2012 Sony, very much reminding you, or maybe 2011, whenever Journey came out, reminding you of that sort of wing of the early 2010s with Sony, where they just sort of, they opened the door to whimsy, and it was great, and Journey was incredible, and as soon as they sort of showed the sand dune surfing stuff, I was like, oh, okay, I see you. I see you taking that one bit that we all loved in that game and making a whole game out of it. Like, yeah, okay, sure, let's do it.
Truthfully, this is another one where I look at it and I say, that looks awesome, and then I might never play it. Funnily enough, I did that same thing with the Pathless, but it's still worth shouting out because, like you said, when you saw like those dunes of the waves, you know, moving like that, for lack of a better term, it just had that cool, confident visual style, and like you said, there's a pedigree there in terms of the other games that these creatives have been involved in. It was the kind of game that I love seeing at these showcases, to be honest, where you just kind of like, it might not be for me, but I love that it exists.
Tell you what might be for you is Teardown, something that's been on PC, been on Steam for a good while. That game is literally GTA meets Minecraft. Now, I have it on my Steam Deck, so that was one of the games that I used to test the Steam Deck, just crank all the sliders all the way up and watch the frame rate tank. But that game is really, really fun. What did you think of it? I don't know if you've seen much of it before tonight.
Well, I'd seen it a year ago or so, and I saw that it was like only out on PC, but the idea has stuck with me. So when it was announced here for PlayStation, I thought I finally get to play this game, and it's just that kind of sandbox, even if it's not necessarily a sandbox, but you know, that kind of sandbox sense of fun and anarchy, the fact that you have these physics to play with, and you kind of just go in and go wild. I don't even know what the game's necessarily going to be outside of that.
Honestly, it is
almost all I need.
It is literally old school GTA mission design. It's just like, go steal this thing, go blow up this thing, go do whatever, and you just do that however you want. If you want to pack a van full of explosives and take out the foundations of the building, you can. It's very anarchic Tears of the Kingdom or whatever. Like, it is that old school thing.
Hey, as someone who loved that stuff in Red Faction Guerrilla back in the day.
What a pick.
Scratching that itch.
Give me something else from your priority list. You had a few things written down, I think.
Yes, let me have a look. Oh, speaking of really cool indies, I thought Revenant Hill looked amazing.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Night in the Woods, and from what I can tell from the brief Google that I did before this, it's some of the same creatives who worked on that who went off to form another studio. It looks very much in the same vein as that, and this was kind of like one of my picks of the show where I don't know much about it, but just visually it got me in, and based on that other game, if it's in a similar style or at least has the same quality of storytelling and characters, that's another one I'm really looking forward to.
Honestly, I got a little bit of hair here that's insisting on coming through. But anyway, no, I thought Revenant Hill, the fact that they had like the cat has the same head as May from Night in the Woods, and obviously the trailer, they're sort of running through all the different thematics and different sort of underpinnings of that game's story, and I was like, okay, are you doing Night in the Woods too? This is kind of fascinating considering what happened with that game, and like you said, its creators. But still, when you get past that, it almost goes into a completely different setting altogether, and then you get the same kind of font and it says Revenant Hill. Yeah, that would be something that I would like shout out as well. I did write down Final Fantasy 16. Just, it's almost out. It's got one of the biggest showings of it so far. Big kaiju battles. As a fairly new Final Fantasy man, what do you make of this?
Here's the thing.
Really?
Here's the thing. The other trailers I've seen for the game really wowed me and got me into the idea of picking up this game at launch. And it's not that this was a bad trailer by any means. It's just one of those games right now because, like you said, we're a month out from it. I've seen enough. And it's kind of like almost like a Deathloop or a Days Gone situation from back in the day where it's like, Sony, you don't need to sell me on this anymore. I've seen enough. I've seen Clive. I want to shout Clive's name over and over again. I want to see some Geordie accents. Yes, and I want to get into Final Fantasy 16.
That dude, I should at some point I'll look up the actor's name because I love his voice, but I just keep calling him Finchy. It's Finchy from The Office. He's all over the trailer.
He's an absolute fiend for stuff set in this period, isn't it? You want like a gritty, olden-timey British voice, and you get Chris Finch from The Office. Love that.
Big Bad Finchy. I will also throw in another game that made me jump off my couch, which was Ghost Runner 2. Something that I absolutely loved. The original game, just stupidly, brutally hard. I never finished it, but I loved that game. Soundtrack, shout out to Daniel Deluxe. Just a really hard, like dark synthwave soundtrack with brutally hard first-person, melee-based gameplay. One of the sweetest sentences I could say in the language, and I absolutely loved it. So the fact that they showed that again, and it's got like a Tron light cycle in it. Like, just, could you speak my language anymore? I love that thing. Ghost Runner 2, I thought that thing looked awesome. Wasn't expecting that game to get a sequel, considering it launched pretty damn buggy back in the day.
Yeah, but still, as someone who didn't play the original Ghost Runner, but was really intrigued by its seemingly incredibly tough combat in platforming, I saw the addition of vehicles, which I assume were in the original game, and the speed of it, again, a lot of games with like really good sense of momentum were shown off in this showcase. Yeah, probably not one high on my list, but it's like, I think we got a lot of cool sequels that were announced that like I just wasn't expecting, including Dragon's Dogma 2. I don't know where you fell on that, but I thought, yes, I will take a modern era Capcom RPG with that kind of setting. I thought that looked really neat as well.
Oh, dude, I'm a massive Dragon's Dogma fan. It's one of those games that I've spent, like, I keep restarting it. I've spent, like, 50, 60, whatever it is, hours in it, and I've never finished it. But I always love the combat in that game, the boss battles, or the idea of just jumping. I mean, they showed it in this, like, jumping on a griffin, going back up into the sky, tackling stuff out of the sky. I always loved the combat the most in that. It wasn't the story that kept me going. The whole dragon stole your heart thing, it was just, like, ridiculous. But still, the fact that they're doing a Dragon's Dogma 2, we've known it's been coming for a while, and then just Capcom firing on all cylinders. I thought it was funny looking at the amount of games that are that sort of like 4-player co-op adjacent thing. There's a lot of games that are steering straight into that, whether it be that weird Foam Stars thing from Square Enix, whether it was the thing that opened the show, Far Games or Fair Games. The one that's like from Haven or whatever. Stuff like that, where it's just like the Foam thing was just literally Splatoon. It was just like, let's just do that for the consoles that aren't Nintendo. But it's not that you can't do a game like that and do it well. Like 4-player co-op stuff can be brilliant. But it's worth, well, I don't know if it's a specific shout out, but it's worth acknowledging that there's a lot of Fortnite type stuff in here as well.
Well, dude, I'm going to wrangle you to do either a podcast or a news on it at some point, but I was looking at Sony's financial report that they sent to shareholders this morning, and there was so much in there about how much they want to move towards live services in the future. They've obviously said that before, but looking at where they want to grow and what they want to show off and how they want to balance their portfolio, it seems like they want 50-50 split between single player and live service / multiplayer games. So I wasn't surprised to see so much of it here, but at the same time, the games that they showed off weren't necessarily my cup of tea, for lack of a better term. Yeah. It's an interesting line to walk. Like I was saying to my wife when we were watching it, because it's like the amount of games that are sort of remind you of Fortnite to a more casual gamer or whatever, and it's like, can the PlayStation brand make that stuff work where every single third-party attempt at ripping that stuff off has failed, especially with the likes of Anthem, Avengers, Suicide Squad, you name it, it's failed. Maybe they can make it work just because it is endorsed by PlayStation, they can market it a bit better or whatever. You should talk about VR stuff. They had a nice little, time for the VR portion of the evening, and they sort of dedicated 7 to 8 minutes, but at least they got a good amount of stuff in there. Scott Tilford, if Spider-Man, right, wasn't shown off tonight, I wouldn't have been bothered, because that PSVR 2 showcase, as someone who loves the PSVR 2, was all I ever wanted and more. To finally see footage of the Resident Evil 4 remake working in VR and how beautiful that looked, after playing Resi 8's VR port, which was astounding, and having played Resident Evil 4 Remake like 6 times already, I'm ready to do that thing again. The Crossfire Sierra Squad, I think it was, looked pretty neat. To get a sequel to Arizona Sunshine, which, while not a beloved PSVR game, because it wasn't the best of ports just due to the limitations of the tech, was a beloved VR game in general. So hopefully that game will be able to take full advantage of the new technology that the PSVR 2 introduces. It looked really promising. As someone who was kind of worried about the long-term support of this machine, this has given me a bunch of games to look forward to.
Yeah, man, that's the whole thing. I'm still waiting for. I mean, I think the catalog is there now. I think in terms of just showing off the tech, I liked that they had a specific edit in the corner of the screen. It was like, here's your VR section. Like, let me make sure that you guys know this is the stuff that you'll be controlling with that extra level of like fidelity in VR. And Resi 4 looked incredible. Like, my wife was just like, what the, how would you ever play like a horror this in depth, like grabbing the zombies and everything else? But yeah, that thing looked awesome. I thought, because that Beat Saber as well, like they sort of dropped a few things to be like, hey, this thing's available now. Like they're supporting it pretty head on.
Yeah, that was another. I forgot all about that, but thank you for reminding me to buy and download Beat Saber right now. Yeah, that was another great drop. I just thought every single thing they showed for that section was great. Will it be enough to encourage people to buy a PSVR 2 if they don't have one? Maybe not, but for people who own it, like I said, it's a confident foot forward on top of the great games we already have.
Yeah, man. If Superhot 2 comes around, Superhot 3, I guess, at this stage, then maybe I'll be lining up. Speaking of awesome drops, we should talk about Marathon. We've been waiting for the next IP from Bungie in a while. Marathon's the thing that they originally made back on the Mac, the thing that turned into Halo. They trademarked the name Matter back in like 2017 or something, which this trailer, there was one bit in this trailer, one frame of this, where all the colors aligned like the Matter logo, and I like that as a little nod to like, nice. Oh, you guys think it's going to be Matter? Actually, we're resurrecting the thing that put us on the map in the first place, which is just kind of funny that like, obviously they went from that to Halo blew up, Xbox property, whatever, and then Sony sort of stepped in and it was like, what are they going to do next? Well, they're going to do the thing that they were originally going to do back in like the 90s. I think that's kind of like a fascinating turn. What do you think this will be? It looked like a third-person multiplayer shooter.
It did, right? It looked like a third-person multiplayer shooter.
A little bit of a Fortnite, maybe. All-encompassing. I was using it as an all-encompassing term, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. There were some warning signs, perhaps, in the trailer where I was like, this might not end up being for me, but generally, I thought the aesthetics were really great. It actually reminded me, in part, of Signalis from last year. That kind of like sci-fi CRT monitor style horror like influence I thought was in there a little bit. I don't know whether that's going to be in the final game, but it was just exciting to see something new from Bungie alongside the Destiny 2 expansion that was announced as well. But I imagine that's going to be a few years off yet. But I guess because it got no date and everything else seemed to get a 2023 or 2024 release date. Yeah, so true. I don't know when we're going to see more of that, but it was a nice taste to just show that they have something else in the works.
Yeah, man. Well, that's the thing. It's like you buy someone like Bungie and like, I mean, that's the thing. The name of the Destiny, the final, it's like the final shape or something for the next Destiny DLC. So it's like they are winding down on Destiny 2. So yeah, it makes sense to kind of go all like, this is the next thing. We're winding down with this, like just transition over. But I think, yeah, Halo to Destiny to the next thing, and that being PlayStation exclusive, at least assumedly it is. That's kind of fascinating. Yeah.
I will say, you know, just as a kind of, I don't know if you've got any more games, but just before we wrap up, I want to say, like, I did think, got some criticisms towards the end. I don't think it was, like, the perfect showcase. I could have done with way more gameplay. In particular, we saw a lot of cinematic trailers, we saw some gameplay here and there, but I would have liked proper demos in the style of Spider-Man 2's, which was, one of the best of the show. I would have liked kind of more info on like what Naughty Dog's up to. I thought it was a real big omission that we didn't get any of the Last of Us factions, like not even a trailer for it. It makes me wonder about that game. It makes me wonder whether it's still a little ways off, but I think generally I can kind of rationalize that because I don't know if they've confirmed this. I've not checked since the show has ended, but like I said, everything they showed apart from Bungie's game seemed to have a firm 2023 or 2024 release date, so it makes me wonder whether they're doing what Microsoft did last year, where everything they've showed off, mostly bar one or two games, is kind of the next year of the PlayStation ecosystem, and we'll see that other stuff afterwards, but maybe that's just a bit of maybe that's just me grabbing at straws.
No, man, I honestly think because there was that quote from Jim Ryan going into this where he said they want total mind share in terms of making sure everybody's always talking about PlayStation. I wonder if, I mean, the thing is, they've left us wanting more, which is obviously one of the greatest things you want to do at the end of a showcase. I think they keep back a couple of their best cards to play, the next Naughty Dog game, like all those sort of big things, because they need something to contend with Starfield and the whole Starfield showcase and the direct that's happening, I think, at the beginning of July. And I would imagine that they sort of go, here's the next massive thing, like here's Last of Us factions, like the day after or something, because they're already lining, I mean, the amount of games that they showed off that they are going to be dropping when Starfield is dropping, I think they do that. Sony love putting stuff out in direct competition with Xbox.
Yeah, man, and like, it might not be great for us as fans, but they don't need to announce more than they already have, really. Like, they've got a stacked 2023, and that's only gotten more stacked with some of the announcements here. They've got big first-party games, they've got big second-party games, they've got big partnerships coming up. They've got their release window down now for the next 9 months, 12 months, or whatever it is. So I do think, like, you're right. I think they probably are holding some of those cards back to get the likes of Final Fantasy and Spider-Man out the way, and then next year be like, look, we've also got this, and this, and then that's going to be your 2024 and your 2025 and into 2026 probably.
I guess also you've got like the whole scope for more state of plays, more gameplay focused things. Because that was the thing. Every time I saw that, cinematic trailer not representative of gameplay, I was like, well, what's the point then, Sony? Are we getting hyped for games or not? But I think, they sort of leave you wanting more. They want you, we are dying to see more gameplay for these various games, and they have the rest of the year to pepper those things in. Also, there's all the rest of Summer Games Fest to come. So that I guess they still have to kind of wait and let Keighley reveal some stuff as well.
That's true. It was interesting that, they've got games that they have announced, even at the last showcase that they did that weren't here. We've mentioned The Last of Us factions, there's Silent Hill 2, there's Wolverine. So whether we see that some of those games over Summer Games Fest, or maybe they're just keeping them for later on, and just we know they're out there, but we don't have an update for them yet. It's like, they definitely didn't show everything that they have cooking right now. That's definite.
No, I think the fact that they have more irons in the fire is only exciting. Like, I kind of remembered halfway through this that there is the rest. This is the beginning of Summer Games Fest. We have a whole bunch of, what used to be E3 is like now like E3 season. It's like almost like a month long or whatever. But yeah, let us know what you think down in the comments below of these Sony Showcase. Which games are you looking forward to the most, and which trailer/game stole your hearts and minds? For now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
I've been Josh from WhatCulture.com.
And we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye. I'm going to bed.
I know, yeah, same. Bye.